Welcome, everybody. How are you guys going? Uh, like Giovanna so nicely said, we're going to present our little project for you. Giovanna, do you want to take the lead? I'll just share my screen here.
Oh, so good afternoon for everyone. Me and Luisa, we participate from the IGEN competition. We represent the UNICAMP. And we'll talk about first we are talk about the problem, the main problem that we want to resolve. And next then we talk a little about our strategy for solve that. So can you pass the slide, please? So recycling in Brazil is complicated, and we know that because we have like 8 billion reais that are lost every year, and this money is like actually lost because we waste of material that have recyclable potential, you know. So these material like are putting out in a larger number of dumps, and they are incorrect disposal. And this can turn everything impossible for the recycling process itself. You know, so this complicated a lot because the recycling chain is very different in many dumps. So this is one of our mainly problems, identify one key process in recycling chain. So this big issue that we want to treat is the contamination itself of these solid residuals. So one of the, just a minute.
Sorry.
Oh, all right. So we have a high cost of implementation and maintenance, you know, these dumps, because they generate a huge negative ecological impact. And this negative impact is talk about our society, most affect the marginalized communities, you know, because they consume most of them some untreated resources, natural resources that we have to dispose. So this decomposition residue is capable of contaminating the soil and water bodies.
And now we can go for the little solution we proposed. We thought a little bit about producing something like an enzymatic cocktail with genetically modified cells to degrade the substances found in food waste that contaminate recyclable materials. So with that in mind, this cocktail would be applied both in projects for the mainstream public, such as sprays, sponges, you call it, as well as the industrial sector. Let's just imagine that you work for a dump or a waste management company. You could do large containers to wash the recyclable material with this cocktail before sending them to the separation process. Providing targeted products to the mainstream public has the potential to establish a communication path for the dissemination of reliable information. And once again, the recyclable waste would be available to continue in the recycling chain. So our idea would be that the frugal biostack that we propose would be a giant bioreactor for producing the enzyme cocktail that would be sent to clean up the contaminated waste. The production should happen then for small, as the spray or the sponge, and large scales, such as dump waste treatment. And along with that, getting the hang of this thing. Yeah, here are a little bit of our references that we took for it. And most of all, we would like to ask for inputs on this idea because we want to provide a sustainable solution for a very real and important issue. So all ideas are welcome. So I think we're open for questions and suggestions now. Right, Gio?
Yes, completely.
Okay. Questions for Luisa? Isaac? You can go.
Fantastic idea. are you familiar with the work of Paul Stamets? He's a guy. He lives in the Pacific Northwest in the United States, and he's basically a mushroom wizard. He works with fungi, and he's collected thousands, maybe tens of thousands of different types of fungi and demonstrated these incredible different things they can do. And I just think about in terms of when you're looking at trying to develop an enzyme cocktail for degrading, particularly plastic wastes that and these chemicals that can cause contamination and that don't break down very easily normally. Paul Stamets has demonstrated that just like oyster mushrooms, for instance, Pleurotus, can like eat polyethylene plastic and can eat like oil spill, just raw crude oil. But Pleurotus will eat it and then turn it into healthy mushrooms. And so I actually think there's a lot of potential for screening. There's like a two-stage thing here where like first identify what are the organisms, whether microbes or in particular, I think fungi would be good ones to look at, the decomposer extraordinaires of our world, which ones can break down which of these particular compounds that you're hoping to get rid of in the waste stream. And then once you've identified those, either look at isolating the particular enzymes produced by the fungi for that, or look at a more sort of instead of the sort of molecular scale engineering, look at the organism and the ecosystem scale engineering, where what combinations of fungi can you mix together, and how can you prepare the trash and process the trash and add in like nutrients that enable the fungi to grow while they're doing this degradation process. So those are some thoughts that I have off the top of my head.
So the idea would be reach up to this guy and see how he could help with providing the right enzymes and microorganisms to help with the trash degradation, because in our searches we found that the main contaminants in this case would be contaminants of solid waste. We were thinking about metal, we were thinking about plastic, we were thinking about cardboard, and most of those materials have recycling potential. They're just not recycled because they're doomed as unrecyclable because of a lot of organic material that was attached to them. So do you think that this guy could help us with that?
I definitely think it's worth reaching out to him, and you can probably just Google Paul Stamets. He's got some sort of a company or organization, like a nonprofit institution, and it would be worth collaborating with him. Yeah, if the idea is to remove particular contaminants that are on otherwise recyclable materials, yeah, then I could see that being more something that where specific purified enzymes would lend themselves better. Because I would imagine if you got cardboard in there that you're trying to recycle, the fungus is going to eat that cardboard right away. So yeah, definitely different approaches for different end goals with the recycling.
We talk about develop this products, because this we can taking out this the responsibility of the dumps, to recycling these products and maintain they perfectly for develop, be another thing after that, but putting in the citizens, the responsibility too, and they have the autonomy for doing that. We, like Luisa said, they spray and etc.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And if you scale back, like if you zoom out a little bit, an important thing to think about is not just how do you start tackling the problem of the trash that's already there, but how do you tackle the problem? How do you what would a system of human material flows look like where you're not generating those waste, those non-recyclable waste products in the first place? And what are the solutions at the policy level, not just at the technological level, that prevent or that minimize that flow and that make it more manageable for the, you know, the last stage of sort of biotechnological bioremediation.
So the idea would be to think about the line of production, which involves the bioremediation products. Because the idea for the Biofoundry would be that the Biofoundry would itself be just a grand industry for mass producing these enzymes. Do you think it could work in a different way or no?
So I think it's an essential component of the sort of overall circular ecosystem. And it's important, you know, as you're building that component to think about, you know, what are the other sort of institutions and stakeholders and policies that you need to be connecting to in order to make the whole thing actually sustainable, as opposed to, you know, just that one like isolated node. So it's just something to think about. Like, you know, it's like we were saying with the Manaus team. You know, there's opportunity as you're building the thing to start building connections with other organizations as well.
Could you be first, Devin? I could say after.
Sure. I think this is a really cool idea. I guess going off of sort of what, and I like the idea actually too of focusing on the consumer at that step as well with the small spray or the sponges. I'm wondering how this would compare to the current methods for removing organic material from plastics. Presumably there's something you can do. I mean, I know, for example, I always try and wash all my plastics out with soap and water before recycling them. I know some people do, some people don't. And enforcing that is a problem. So like there's already some methods which are relatively simple for cleaning plastic that, to Isaac's point, how if there's already people who aren't washing out their plastics with soap and water, how do you get them to use this spray? And on the industrial scale, I think you'd want to find out how much more cost effective the enzyme is versus whatever method they currently use. I'm going to imagine that it is, because you might not need as much heat and, you know, agitation and things like that with the enzyme. But otherwise, a really, really cool idea. I like it.
Yeah, the issue around here in the industrial level is that dumps in Brazil do not exactly follow one single rule. Some of them have a little separation of the products, and some of them don't. They just toss everything in the little place. Our idea was to provide them with an easy alternative for them to just, if they do the separation in the first place, if they're already compromising themselves with such a thing, they could apply that product, the separation process, to make more things recyclable in an easier way.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a really fantastic idea, and I'd love to see it develop further. So,
One thing that I would like to say is that in Brazil we have a lot of people that are below the threshold of poverty. Sorry, they actually to make the day. One thing that they do is actually collect recyclables and sell to one location where they buy recycle materials to sell for another chain in the recycling industry. And one of the things that maybe will be interesting also, I think there's actually, it's have some proximity with what Isaac is saying, is that maybe using your product to make some materials that are disposable and not use it in these locations for, they don't pay people because of some contamination in these places. They could use this solution for actually recycle those things that are actually disposable, because they don't have an easy way to eliminate the organic material of this, right? And maybe they could be also, instead of only focus in the consumer, maybe these locals where they buy recycled materials could be also another user of the product.
So the idea would be to make the whole process mechanical.
What they're saying is that in Brazil, in your city, a lot of people that are below the poverty generally go to the trash of the people and they take the recyclables, right? This is something very common in Brazil, and they sell this to some shop that buy those materials and use this to they actually have the power to recycle this, and maybe the product could be used for these companies that actually buy these materials, because this will allow them to receive other types of trash, different types of trash that right now they don't think it's recyclable. They actually don't use this. For example, I remember that some types of plastics that are so mixed with food that they don't are actually, it's not possible to actually recycle. Maybe you could use this for making these types specific of plastics recyclable, right? And maybe it would be better to sell these products to the company because they will have more materials to actually buy and recycle and have more money than actually the final consumer of this product.
I see. So the idea would be to target the companies that do plastic selection and separation before selling, before taking this product to recycling industries.
Yes. Maybe they will have better use and they could scale this much more than the final consumer. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We're totally gonna search for that. Because it's just that the process, in our research, we found that the process is just so split down into minor sectors. There are companies that dedicate themselves exclusively for trash separation and trash transport. They don't even go directly to the dumps after they are picked up. They go to a company that puts them in trucks and then it's taken to a dump. Same applies to recycling companies. There are companies that are dedicated just to the separation, just to the transportation, and just to the recycling process as it is. So the idea of just targeting the ones that do separation and transport before the whole recycling happens it's probably the most cost-effective one. Thank you.